The other thing that I like about it is that it does include those unilateral exercises, right? So you got lunges, you have, stuff that you're doing on one side of the body, which when you think about it, if you're walking, that's unilateral, right? You're alternating between one side of the body. There's not too many things in life where you need to do one rep maximum and have both feet and just push like that, right? Every once in a while, even in sports that require a lot of strength, you generally need something called strength endurance. So you need a combination of strength and endurance blended together. And so this is why I think this is actually a pretty good program for people who are, just a general strength conditioning program for athletes, for beginners, right? Or just general population who want to have a nice mix between strength and hypertrophy, right? Hey guys, Aaron Kubitz, personal trainer, Functional Aesthetics EC, blending science and innovation to help busy guys in their 40 build muscle, shed fat, and perform better inside and outside the gym. Today I'm going to be covering Jim Wendler's 5-3-1 program. So Jim Wendler, if you're not familiar with him, he is a former football player, professional power lifter. He has some quite impressive strength records as well. He had a 1,000-pound squat that he did, a 675-pound bench press, and a 700-pound deadlift. The reason he said that he designed the 5-3-1 program is, in his words, to bring back strength principles that had been lost among the academics and pencil pushers. Hence the age-old battle between the in the YouTube community at least, where you have the science-based lifters and then you have the guys who just say shut up and lift, bro, kind of thing, right? Now, my personal opinion on this is that there's something to be gained from both of these camps, right? But as is usual, it's like the saying that goes that to him who is good with a hammer, every problem is a nail. So if you are an intellectual, if you're somebody who excels in school and you like to study the science and you like to read and do all these kind of things, and particularly if you are not necessarily having the genetic potential to be a Arnold Schwarzenegger or one of these bigger dudes, you will tend to pride yourself on your ability to analyze things, right? On the other end, if you're the guy who's naturally big and strong and everything like that, you're going to be like, hey, I'm already in here doing my stuff. I know what works for me because I've actually tried it in the trenches. So little skinny guy over here, don't tell me how I should do it according to science because I'm actually doing it. It's like the man in the arena from Theodore Roosevelt's speech, right? So I think there's something to be said for both. My personal take on this is that you should use the science as a guideline to get you started in the general right direction. And then through practice of that science, hence the blending science and innovation together, right? You figure out what is the best protocol for you yourself, rather than adhering strictly to something just because an expert told you to do it. Whether it's some guy you see on YouTube, whether you read it in a magazine, whether a scientist told you to do that, life is not in a test tube, right? And so we need to be able to blend both science and innovation or hands-on experience to be able to come up with the ideal solution for ourselves in our particular situation. Alright guys, so as usual in this video I'm going to be going over what, how, pros and cons of this program, Wendler 5-3-1. So what is the program? Well, I've already talked a little bit about the origins of the program, but this program is a 4 days per week program. And it is built around, you guessed it, the 4 primary lifts that you're going to see in pretty much every strength program. You got your squat, your deadlift, your bench press, and your overhead press. However, the way in which these are delivered, the way in which they're sequenced, and the way in which they're scheduled is going to be a little bit different than some of the other programs. And in actuality, I like this program. It's one of my favorite programs that I've seen so far, and I'll tell you a little bit about that towards the end of the video. And as I'm talking about this, you might be able to see why I like this as well, and you might like this program too. So anyway, you got those 4 primary lifts. Now, you are going to, the first thing we need to do is to establish what is our working weights that we're working with, right? So this program, you have it's split into a 4-week cycle. So you're progressing for 3 weeks, and then the fourth week is a deload. The first week, you're doing 3 sets of 5 for each of your lifts, and then you are doing accessory exercises, which I'm going to get into a little bit later on in the video, the specifics of how you program those as well. So first week, you're doing 3 sets of 5 for each of these lifts. Now, you're doing one main lift across 4 different workouts. So you might have noticed that in most of the other strength programs that I've talked about, we're only doing 3 workouts per week. And there tends to be high frequency for squats. So we'll be doing squats like twice a week and deadlifts once. This program, you're only doing each of these compound movements once per week. But you have, instead of having like in some programs where you only have the overhead press like every other week or something like that, or like you'd have the bench press twice a week and then the overhead press once a week, right? And then you'd have certain exercises on the same day. This one allows you to devote complete workout to just one movement, right? So you're gonna in the first week you're gonna have 3 sets of 5 for each of these. So squat on the one day, you're gonna do like bench press on the next day, deadlift on the next day, overhead press on the next day, right? Second week, you're going to come through, and that's going to shift. You're going to increase the weight, which I'll talk about a little bit later on in the video, the specifics of what those poundages are going to be, right? But in the second week, now you're going to drop the repetitions down to 3. So you still have 3 sets, but you only have 3 repetitions per set. So 3 by 3. And then you're going to do that same pattern. Following week, and this is where the 5-3-1 comes in, you're going to be testing your 1 repetition max. So after the warm-up, which for all of these things, typically your warm-up is going to be, you start off with maybe 50% of your 1 rep max, do about 10 repetitions or whatever. You don't want to spend too much time in the warm-up phase, just enough to make sure you're not going to be straining your joints getting into there. And then you're going to jump in, and in week 1, you're going to be doing 65, 75, 85, all of them are by 5 reps, right? So now when you come to week number 3, it's going to be 5-3-1, right? And it's going to be 75, 85, 95, 75% at your 1 for 5 reps, 85% for 3 reps, and then you're going to try to go for a 1 rep max at 95% of your 1 rep max. All right, so at the beginning of this whole like diatribe here, I talked about assigning the training load, because how do we know how heavy we should be lifting for what is 65% if I don't know what my 1 repetition max is, right? Now, you can go and test what your 1 repetition maximum is. However, it's a little safer to estimate it rather than actually going and doing a 1 repetition max if you are newer to the lifting and stuff, right? Now, granted, this is an intermediate program, so you do have some background in lifting, and so you technically could do that. However, a little bit safer way to do it is to estimate to get a 5 rep max, because you're not going to be going quite as intense, right? And then go calculate it online. So how that would look is it's a little bit more specific, but according to the NSCA, you would basically start off and you do what you think is maybe about 50% of your 1 rep max, right? So warm up with 5 to 10 reps of that, and then for the upper body, you're going to increase the weight by 10%. For the lower body exercises, you're going to increase the weight by 20% after you've rested a minute, right? And then you're going to go do 5 repetitions, walk around, rest for 2 to 3 minutes, and then you're going to increase that weight again by the same percentages. Try to do 5 reps again. You're going to keep on going like this until you can't get 5 repetitions, and then if you miss, then you're going to back it off by 5 to 10 or by 10 to 5 to 10%, depending on if it's upper body or lower body. Attempt it again, and whatever you end up being able to get after that will be the numbers that you use to calculate what your 1 repetition maximum is. So then you go online and you find one of those 1 repetition maximum calculators, punch those numbers in, and that's going to give you what your estimated 1 repetition maximum is. So then when you go in and you start doing your program, which is in week 1, 3 sets of 5, week 2, 3 sets of 3, then you're going to know what percentages, like what the actual weight should be on that bar to make this an effective program. Okay, so let's look at what the specifics are for each of those percentages going forward in that week. Now, one thing I do want to mention here is that it is recommended that instead of your actual 1 rep max, you be a little conservative and you pretend that your 90% of your 1 rep max is your 1 rep max. And you use 90% of the 1 rep max to calculate those training loads. Reason being is that this is a pretty aggressive program. You're already in pretty low volume, right? 5 sets of 3 is pretty high intensity, right? And so you don't have much wiggle room if you're too close to that 1 repetition max, right? So starting a little bit more conservatively is going to give you a longer runway to ensure that you don't plateau too fast. It's going to give you longer time period to be able to build that strength over time. The other mistake you don't want to do is, if you are an experienced lifter, to use what your 1 repetition maximum was in a meet, if you were in a lifting competition or something like that, a powerlifting meet or whatever. You don't want to use that when you're calculating this. You want to calculate what your current 5 repetition maximum is, and then estimate your 1 rep max, back that off to 90%, and then you're going to use the following. So in week number 1, it's going to be 3 sets of 5. You're going to have 65, 75, 85, okay, after the warm-up. And then in week number 2, it's going to be 3 sets of 3. So you're going to have 75 or 70, 80, 90. And then in week number 70, 80, 90. And then in week number 3, like I said before, 5, 3, 1. So it's going to be 75, 85, 95. And then in week number 4, that's going to be your deload. Now, absolute beginners or people who don't have a lot of training experience, you could probably do without doing a deload per se, because you are still going to be able to continue going up, right? You are still getting a feel for what your actual strength potential is. But serious lifters, serious athletes, more experienced people, and who are able to actually deliver, like they have a very good feel and have a very good coordination because like we talked about before, strength is a skill, right? So it's about the ability to be able to recruit maximal recruitment of motor units, right? Or the different, like the nerves that connect to the muscle fibers, right? To be able to coordinate so that you're actually using all the muscles in a synchronized fashion all at once to be able to move the most amount of weight. And so beginners don't necessarily have this ability yet, so they're not going to be quite as fatigued when they're doing this. But if you are, then programming that deload in every 4th week is a good idea. In the deload, you're still going to be training 4 days a week, and you're going to go back to doing 3 sets of 5. The difference is, instead of doing the 65, 75, 85 that you were doing in your week 1 of the program, in week 4, it's lower intensity, right? So you're going to do 40%, 60%, and then, 70%, I believe. Yeah, 40, 50, 60. Yeah, 40, 50, 60 in an ascending fashion like that. So first set, you'll be doing 5 reps at 40%, 5 reps at 50%, 5 reps at 60%. So when you come off of the deload in week number 5, what you're going to try to do is add 5 pounds to your upper body exercises and 10 pounds to your lower body exercises. So whatever you were lifting in week number 1 of the program, you're going to add 5 pounds to all of the upper body exercises, so your bench press and your overhead press. And then for the lower body exercises, deadlift and squat, you're going to add 10 pounds. And you're going to try it again, do 3 sets of 5 with that weight, and then again, follow that same progression period, moving on up. Alright guys, so now let's talk about the accessory movements, because remember, each of the workouts has just one compound movement in, and then you have accessory exercises to round out your program. So accessory exercises are broken down into 4 different movements. You have pushing movements, pulling movements, unilateral, and then core. And the program recommends that you assign between 2 to 4 exercises in each workout. So And then you're going to do between 50 and 100 repetitions for each exercise. Now, if that sounds like a lot, just consider that if you have 2 exercises, right? Or if you have, if you do a couple sets of 10, like if you do 4 sets of 10, it's already 40 repetitions, right? If you're doing 4 sets of 12, if you're doing rotator cuff exercises, right? And you do a couple sets of 20 for like face pulls or something, or scarecrow exercise, then those reps can accumulate pretty fast because you're not doing those heavy low volume things. You're trying to accumulate more volume here. So, and then you're also spreading that out between a couple of exercises, right? So if you have 50 to 100 reps, then across 2 to 4 exercises, if you have 2 exercises, that could really just be like 2 sets of 10 per exercise and call it done. So it's really not a ton of volume. But one of the things that I do like about the program here, so this is a nice segue into what are the pros about the program. What do I like about the program is that you are having a little bit more volume, right? To not only help you get your strength, but also to help build a little bit of muscle mass, and then help you to balance out and bring up weak areas, right? Because the big compound movements are very effective for building strength and overall athleticism, but they are not complete if that's all you did. Yeah, if you're short on time, you can get away with just doing some squats, deadlifts, overhead press, and bench press for a little bit. But in the long run, you're going to end up not being quite as strong as you could be, and potentially developing some muscle imbalances and weaknesses, which could come back to bite you in the long run. So the other thing that I like about it is that it does include those unilateral exercises, right? So you got lunges, you have stuff that you're doing on one side of the body, which when you think about it, if you're walking, that's unilateral, right? You're alternating between one side of the body. There's not too many things in life where you need to do one rep maximum and have both feet and just push like that, right? Every once in a while, even in sports that require a lot of strength, you generally need something called strength endurance. So you need a combination of strength and endurance blended together. And so this is why I think this is actually a pretty good program for people who are, just a general strength conditioning program for athletes, for beginners, right? Or just general population who want to have a nice mix between strength and hypertrophy, right? So potentially this could be even a good program to combine with, what's becoming more popular, that hybrid athlete training, right? Where you do long distance running combined with heavy lifting, which powerlifting and distance running are actually an ideal combination because you're already getting a lot of volume when you're doing the running. So what you want is that your strength training should be low volume but high intensity, so that you increase you're able to have faster speed because you have more drive off the ground, and it also helps you to be more injury resistant because you're helping to just generate more durability throughout your entire body. So when it comes to cons for the program, I don't really see too many cons of this program. Overall, I really like the program. It's good for what it was designed for. It's a nice balance between pure strength, a little bit of hypertrophy because of that extra volume. You got balancing out for working stuff in your core, and also unilateral work. So probably one of the strong points that makes it better than a lot of the other programs that I've seen. It's actually quite similar to my hybrid strength program, which is like so hybrid strength training is a more broad concept, and I have 3 different programs for that. But I also have a program online, 16 weeks for men in their 40s to help them build 5 to 10 pounds of muscle, drop 16 pounds, or not 16, drop 15 to 20 plus pounds of body fat, and increase strength, flexibility, and agility. And one of the ways that it does that is by focusing on focusing on one primary compound movement and then building everything else in the workout around it with a mix of bodybuilding and then speed and power type movements, and then some muscular endurance stuff towards the end. So both your warm up and your cool down are kind of built into the thing, and it allows you to build that muscle, shed that fat, and increase your strength in just 20 20 to 30 minutes of strength training per day, as opposed to spending, 4 or 5 hours a week in the gym as you would with bodybuilding or powerlifting, pure bodybuilding or powerlifting protocols. But Wendler 531 is pretty similar to that, with the exception that it doesn't include a lot of power work or a lot of endurance work. So if you're interested in learning more about Hybrid Strength 101 and what that entails, if you're a guy in your 40s and you don't have a lot of time to train and you want an efficient way to maintain lean muscle while efficiently shedding body fat, increasing your strength and your power, as happened to me when I was working full-time and going to college full-time, then go ahead and shoot me an email at aceproaaron@gmail.com. That email address is in the description for this channel as well, and for this video. If you want to send me that email to hear more details about the program, go ahead and do that. So overall, I like this program. It's a solid program, balanced program, and don't really have anything bad to say about it. Have you tried Wendler 531? What is your opinion of the program? Did it deliver on the results that it promises for you? Let me know in the comments. And until then, we will see you all next week for more health and fitness information.